Hi everybody, Martinez here again. I haven't posted a video in a while. I generally prefer my website and writing things down, maybe because I'm a writer, but my website's having problems, and I figured why not make a video. Um, I noticed that my the video that I've got the most hits on, the most views on, is the one I did for the recommendation for Earth Reborn. So I thought I'd go ahead and make some recommendations here on this video and see if people found something they might like. So I'll go and start with some games, and then some comics, and then I'll do some books. So these will be quick so that we don't take it too long. But first up, here's a game called Robotory by Asmodee Games. I don't know if you can still find this, but if you can find it, it's worth it. It's a little tiny portable game. See how small it is? It's like this is the thing. And you get some chips and you get a board. It's an abstract game, but what I like about it is that it's really easy to teach. Takes 5 minutes to play and you're done, and you can carry it really easily, and it's really easy, really fun. Then there's Mr. Jack, a little more complex. Mr. Jack is Mr. Jack Pocket, which is a smaller version of Mr. Jack. One player is Jack the Ripper, and the other person's Sherlock Holmes trying to track him down. And in this game, you lay out the tiles. It takes up a little bit of room, but then you try to track down the killer. It's easy, fairly easy to learn too, and it doesn't take long. It takes about 15 minutes maybe, and that's a slow game. I mean, I can't imagine it taking too long. But 15 minutes would be good, because then you could both play both sides and then compare how you do. Because Mr. Jack seems to have, the games I've been playing, Mr. Jack has a lot of trouble escaping. So it's more like how long can Mr. Jack go without being caught. This is by Hurricane Games. You can't go wrong with a game like this. And then finally we have Pocket Battles. Orcs versus Elves. They also have a Pocket Battles, Celts versus Vikings. I prefer Orcs versus Elves because I like Orcs. But Celts versus Vikings is a really good game too. It's a really simple abstract game. It's supposed to be like an abstract war game in your pocket, which so basically you end up representing all the aspects of a war game. You have little tiles that represent units. See, I'm covering up, and all the things on it, all the little symbols mean something. The dice and all that. And what you do is you assemble an army. You'll maneuver. You'll give orders. So it's basically everything you would get in a war game in about a 10-minute game, 10 to 20 minutes. You can do 30 minutes if it takes longer, depending on how big the battle is. But the game plays pretty quickly. And you can kind of adjust to it, and it works pretty well. It's a pretty good game. Easy to teach, easy to understand. Again, any game you can carry like this and get sort of a war game experience, even in sort of an abstract version of it. Yeah, it passes muster for me. All right, now let's go ahead and recommend some comics. First up, I'd like to recommend Missile Mouse: Escape from Tankium 3. Which is a graphic novel from Scholastic by Jeff Parker. I first discovered Missile Mouse through Flight, which is a compilation, a regular compilation of graphic, sort of all ages graphic artists doing stories, a lot of times with recurring characters. So Missile Mouse was one of them, and was a really good story. So when I saw this, I got and thought I'd give it a shot. And Missile Mouse is it's a sci-fi adventure, all ages, about Missile Mouse, who's basically a space ranger. Sorry about saying basically so much. And that's right there is Blazing Bat, who's after him. Good story, simple story, but it works really well. It's got some good characterization. I hate to say, it's so easy to dismiss it, but there's some solid characterization in there that Jeff does a great job of portraying action, adventure. It's very accessible. There's nothing you can actually get anything objectionable. This is something you can easily share with your kids, and they won't. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's just really accessible, and it's really good writing and really fun and some pretty cool stuff. Okay, Atomic Robo, another great comic by Red 5 Comics. Atomic Robo is a series of comics. They come in miniseries. They usually are done in arcs, and then this is this is the Atomic Robot. I'm so bad at this. Deadly Art of Science, which is so far pretty good. Not one of my favorites. My favorite is still Atomic Robo and the Shadow Out of Time. But but it's a story about a robot built by Nikolai Tesla and his adventures. And so far, the series has done some really interesting things. Like Shout Out of Time is takes place from the 20s, and then the 50s, and then the 70s, and then the modern day world, and makes it all tie together in a really interesting story. A lot of fun, really accessible. They have the previous ones in graphic novel compilations. I highly recommend them. If you like my writing, I'd be surprised if you didn't love this, because this stuff is great. I love this stuff. Anything with a robot fighting Cthulhu monsters or space Nazis or Dr. Dinosaur. Oh, come on, it's awesome. Warlord of Mars by Dynamite Comics. It's an adaptation of the first Mars books by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and Edgar Rice Burroughs is my favorite writer. I love adventure fiction, pulpy adventure fiction, and like Tarzan's my favorite character. Probably Jungle Tales of Tarzan is my favorite book ever, and but Warlord of Mars is really good too. I enjoy the Mars stories a lot. John Carter's kind of a dull guy, but whatever. The Mars is so fun, and this is a really good. So far, has been a really direct adaptation. I've read the books. This is almost scene for scene the books. They've taken a few liberties that work really well. It's a great story. I love this one in particular because this issue introduces Wola, who's John Carter's big Martian dog creature that he becomes loyal to, and he becomes loyal to him. It's a great character. It's one of my favorite elements of the stories. But this one is a little bit more violent. This one's a little more bloody, in keeping with the tradition of the books. People are naked, like on the back here. See, that's. And the only reason I don't find that annoying like I do normally in comic books is because that's kind of in the books. In the books, people are all naked. And this one's not too bloody, but like the last one had some pretty bloody stuff in it. Not terribly graphic, but still, it's a violent world. So anyway, I highly recommend these. So far, they've been really excellent, and I really enjoyed them. Finally, the comic I'd like to recommend that nobody cares about but me, but I'm going to do it anyway, is Thunderstrike. Yeah, I know, he looks kind of silly on the cover. That's kind of the joke there. But Thunderstrike is an old character from the 90s that nobody cares about, but again, me. He was Thor for a while. There was this mortal who was Thor. The backstory comics are very weird. And for a while he filled in for Thor, and then afterwards when Thor came back, the gods gave him a magic mace, and he was a superhero, and he fought for a while. He had his own comic for a while, which I enjoyed. Then he got killed because nobody particularly cared for him. He was kind of outdated at that stage because everyone has to be hardcore and stuff. And this is sort of the continuation of that 20 years later. Wow. 10, 15 years later, is this his son who gets the mace and has some adventures. It's a limited series. It was originally looked like it might be ongoing, but of course in today's comic market you just can't be an ongoing series if you're not connected to all the major events, and there's just no way they're going to have this connected to the major events. It's an all ages comic. It's really good. I enjoy the development of the characters. I enjoy the story. I really like his son, Eric Masterson, he's a good kid who's got some problems, but it's also got some great adventure and some great art, and it's just crazy. But I'm enjoying it. Hopefully they'll collect it in digest form, and I highly recommend you get it. Finally, some books. We're going to run short time, so let's do this quick. There's Bad Science by Ben Goldacre, which is an excellent book on science and pseudoscience. He's talking about homeopathy, cosmetic industry, placebos. I mean, he's just really talking about everything and talking about the effects they have and the positive and the negative and the real truth behind certain things and the scientific basis behind others. And you'd be surprised what you find out. And it's not a real critical book in the sense that he has opinion and he's not going to shy away from it. But he's also pretty nice and pretty straightforward and pretty forgiving. And we're talking about this stuff for real in interesting ways. And even if some chance you're into homeopathy, which knock yourself out, I think it's a great book. You can skip those chapters. Next is Female Chauvinist Pigs. I found this for copy at a half-price bookstore, but I really, really like this one. This is a book that I read a couple of years ago, and I feel like it's all about, see right there, women and the rise of raunch culture. Ariel Levy. Great book because it really paints an interesting portrait of female sexuality in the Girls Gone Wild era and how confusing it is for everybody involved. And great book. So I'd really recommend it. I read this one in one sitting years ago, and I still think about it. And then finally, I'd like to recommend Griftopia by Matt Taibbi. I hope I'm saying that right. I am both loving and hating this book because reading it is enlightening me, even if half of it is true, and yet it's kind of annoying because you realize how screwed we are. He's just talking about the fact that, you know, why are we going broke and why are we having so much trouble getting things done and what's going on, and you know, he's not painting a target of conservative or liberal. He's just saying the whole thing's broken, the whole system, and it's hard to argue with because he breaks down the housing market crisis in a way that's really interesting to hear. He breaks down the oil prices problems we're having in a really interesting way. He starts talking about America selling its commodities, so just to pay its bills. He's talking about all these interesting ideas and not shying away from it. There's some language in there that I'm not happy with, in the sense that I think it's needlessly combative, but I think that's his point, so it's hard to argue with. Just a great book. It's just worth reading. I just feel like everybody should read it, and it's because even I can't. It seems true, but it's just a great book. All right, so that's it. That's all my recommendations. I guess there's nothing else I can say about that. If you like this video, you know, drop me a comment or give me a like or whatever. But anyway, next time this weekend I'm going to try to get a better camera. I might even get like a camera that I can actually, then maybe I'll do game reviews, take pictures of games, and talk to people, you know, get you some more in-depth coverage, because I like games, and if people are going to watch those videos, I'm all for it. All right, later.